They're big, they're brutal, they're the All Blacks. Once known as the Originals, the New Zealand national rugby team features mountains for men and hold a winning record against every country they've played. And since 2003, they've held the #1 spot in the World Rugby Rankings, more than the rest of the world combined. Add to that their threatening black uniforms and war cry, and the All Blacks rightfully rank amongst the world's elite of any sport in history. It seems nobody can hide from the All Blacks, but the All Blacks can't hide from the truth. In sport, many a rally song is used to light a figurative fire beneath the crowd to cheer on their teams and spark the team itself to play beyond expectations. Some teams have opted for the somber salute like Liverpool's "You'll Never Walk Alone," while others find incomprehensible joy in the incessant sounds of the vuvuzela. The Maori people of New Zealand have blessed their nation with the Haka, a traditional war cry or dance. And while a more welcoming one may sound like this, the one made famous by the All Blacks rugby team is a little more menacing. Although now known as the intimidating battle cry that makes most mortals run for cover, the All Blacks Haka wasn't always that way. A regular pre-game ritual since 1905, the early All Blacks performed it with a lot of gentle slaps and some confusion. But nowadays, it's a fearsome sight to behold, and a tradition generally greeted with respect and esteem.
I've seen it, but look, I enjoy facing the Haka, we all do. It's a great thing, I think. It's a brilliant thing in sport.
The Haka has been seen in many forms. The Fijians, the Samoans, even the military.
Haka looked a little bit scary being on the receiving end of it.
It is, I tell you, I'm glad they're on my side.
But nothing beats the Haka from the world's greatest rugby team. Coming up, World Cup 2015, the tournament that made them immortal. When you play for the All Blacks, sources of motivation are abundant. There's the fans, a loud and loyal bunch who proudly wear their All Black jerseys, singing the Haka with the confidence their nation will destroy the opposition. The evolution of the country itself is inspiring. Once just a giant sheep farm, it's now the home to some of the world's most livable cities. There's the history of past victories and the upholding of their dominant legacy. And at the World Cup, motivation also came from France. The French national rugby team became something of a thorn in the side of the All Blacks, beating them in the 1999 semi-finals and in the quarter-finals in 2007, where they reversed a 10-point half-time deficit. Both occasions, the French were seen as nothing more than a stepping stone. But the heavily favoured New Zealanders just didn't step high enough. Using those bitter defeats as fuel to their 2011 World Cup fire on home soil, they finally got their revenge, ending one of world sport's most confounding jinxes in an 8-7 final victory, an ugly affair reflected in the face of their captain, Richie McCaw.
You're right, it wasn't very pretty, but it came down to how much desire, how much courage the boys had, and a lot of guys have put a lot of effort in for a long time to get themselves into the situation of playing this game, and they weren't going to let that opportunity go.
So with the monkey off their back, the All Blacks had to rely on another form of motivation to repeat in 2015. That was to ensure their win against the feisty French wasn't a fluke. After finishing top of Pool C, the All Blacks were ready to face the French again at Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, home of the 2007 upset.
I know for myself, certainly, disappointing day that was, but it perhaps shaped what's been 8 years since. Those days are the ones that you learn a few lessons, and then you have good times that have come since then that you also learn lessons. And I guess just grateful, that we get another opportunity to be in a quarter-final of the World Cup.
Obviously, we know that playing against All Blacks is a massive challenge, but to know that a team who's had their back against the wall have done it before, the French side have done it before, it does give us a bit of hope. So we'll hold on to whatever hope we've got, and we know we've got a massive challenge ahead of us tomorrow, but we know it's been done before, so why not again?
Why not again, Mr. Spedding? Because the All Blacks were way too good. 9 tries, including 4 in the first half, made the game a non-event. And the All Blacks moved on to the semis against South Africa. New Zealand's rugby union rivalry with the Springboks is arguably its greatest, especially when you consider that between 1912 and 1991, the two nations were tops on the world rankings for 77 out of 79 years. South Africa is also the most successful side against the All Blacks, having won 39% of their matches. And when teams were told to not associate with the South African sporting clubs during the apartheid years, the nations still engaged in test series matches.
I think the rivalry is unique. Obviously, growing up in South Africa, my old man played against the Cavaliers, I think in '86 or whatever it was. So, obviously grew up with watching South Africa playing the All Blacks. But again, this is a massive game for us, the current crop of generation.
Scott Burger is a guy I've been lucky enough to play against over many years, and he's the epitome of the physicality that the Springboks bring. So I relish those opportunities, and tomorrow's another opportunity, and if we never get to do it again, well, I wouldn't mind making this one to remember.
It definitely was for the All Blacks, who were able to grind out a 2018 victory in a gritty game that saw them down 12-7 at half-time. And so it was on to the final against Australia. Twickenham Stadium in London, and the All Blacks and Wallabies became battling buddies once more. The New Zealand-Australia rivalry is an odd one. Allies in war who fought and died together. The nations still battle over the origins of the pavlova and actor Russell Crowe. In 2015, Australia already beat New Zealand twice in World Cup finals, netball and cricket, but they knew their clash with the All Blacks wouldn't be a walk in the pool.
I don't know if the rivalry is going to make any difference. It's World Cup, and any match you play and you're playing for your country, you're going to be doing your best.
That best included an amusing rumour that had Australia impose a ban on referring to their foes as the All Blacks.
I didn't know that, so they can call us whatever they want. Being Aussies, they probably will.
Can I say All Blacks now for you? There you go. Right, okay. Right. Oh, hang on. Oh, poltergeist.
When all was said and done, the, dare I say it, All Blacks beat Australia, also known as the Wallabies, 34-17. The All Blacks became the first team to successfully defend the Webb Ellis Cup, sparking celebratory chaos amongst its supporters.
Richie McCaw, the best player in the world, Dan Carter, that drop goal sealed it for the All Blacks.
Well, what a bloody great game that was. We're going to be here all day now, and I might be late to work tomorrow.
5 All Blacks made the 2015 World Cup Dream Team, including fly half Dan Carter, who tallied the most conversions with 23, and wing Julian Savia, who led the tournament in tries with 8. That total equals the record for one tournament, set by former All Black Jonah Lomu and South African Brian Habana. Rugby has also become popular worldwide for the camaraderie shown amongst players and fans. This culture of class has been a key component of the All Blacks' DNA, a way of being that includes the older players looking after the younger ones like their own children. But others outside the dressing room have benefited from their random acts of kindness. Before the 2015 World Cup final, Beauden Barrett walked out of a London hair salon with a free haircut, courtesy of a New Zealander working there. But after discovering the stylist was battling cancer, he returned to give her an autographed jersey, cap, and tickets to the final. And then there was Sonny Bill Williams, and the tale of the boy who received Sonny Bill's World Cup winner's medal.
Yeah, he's probably was 7 or 8, and he snuck past the security guards, but they managed to catch up with him just before he came to give me a hug, and he got smoked by one of the security guards, so I kind of felt really sorry for him, you know. That was a younger brother, or younger cousin, and probably give the security guard a hiding or something, you know. So I just picked the kid up and took him back to his old lady, and I guess try to make the night more memorable for him and give him better hanging around his neck than on my walls at home, I guess.
Nice touch. Was he upset or?
No, he was pretty happy after that.
Oh, he was pretty happy after that, but a little Kiwi boy? Or?
Yeah, he's a little Kiwi fella. He had his All Blacks jersey on, so you know, we might see him in the future. Nimble feet getting around the security guards, eh?
After the break, the greatest All Blacks of them all. To play for the All Blacks, you have to be good. Really good. You need to be tough, too. Maybe not lose teeth and testicle mid-match like Buck Shelford and still play tough, but tough. So imagine if you were considered one of the best of the best. It's a rare distinction given to rugby's elite. There once was a time when this man was the most feared rugby player in the world. Colin Meads represented the All Blacks between 1957 and 1971, scoring 65 points in 55 test matches. An icon of New Zealand rugby, he was an animal on the pitch.
Referee Kevin Kelleher warns Colin Meads about dangerous play.
But he was a sir of it, having been appointed a Knight Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit in 2009. Meads was named Player of the Century at the NZ RFU Awards in 1999. The legendary Richie McCaw left the game in 2015, its most capped of all time, with 148, winning a record 131 of them. The 3-time World Rugby Player of the Year also set world records for most matches as a captain with 110, winning a stratospheric 89% of them, making him the greatest All Black captain ever.
Why is he so successful? Just because he's so competitive. I played with Richie. I remember when he first came in to the Crusaders, when I was early 20s, and he came in and he was just a nightmare at training, you know. He was over the ball, competitive, and I was like, Richie, what are you doing there? You're not even in the run-on team. Oh, you know, I'm just trying to... And that's the way that he thinks and the way that he works.
Making his debut with the Baby Blacks in 1986, Sean Fitzpatrick celebrated his graduation to the senior side 1 year later by winning the inaugural Rugby World Cup. In 1992, he was made the team captain, and as if in honor of that year, he ended his career with 92 caps and 55 points. The game's first global superstar, the late Jonah Lomu, was an absolute force of nature. In 8 glorious years with the All Blacks, Lomu won 63 caps and scored 37 tries and 185 points. He only played in 2 World Cups, but holds the tournament record for most tries with 15. Considered to be the most powerful man to ever play the game, the irony of Jonah's journey is that he was dying from the inside, having carried on with a debilitating kidney disease. I went to the World Cup in '95 knowing I was sick, he said. Who knows how destructive Lomu could have been had he played healthy. Another athlete who makes the list is a man who went from Southbridge to superstar over a career filled with team and individual awards. His name is Dan Carter.
Like, I knew it was going to be my last game in the All Black jersey, and wanted it to be a pretty memorable one. And there's no sort of bigger stage of playing in a World Cup final. And
say it isn't so, Dan. Please say it isn't so. But at 33 years of age, the writing was on the wall for Carter, and winning the 2015 World Cup was the perfect way to go.
It still hasn't really sunk in, to be honest. I never expected this, and if you'd told me that this is how my last sort of 24 hours of being an All Black was going to be, I wouldn't have believed you, to be honest. It's been a dream come true.
It wasn't the first time Carter had won the World Cup, having been a part of the 2011 title. But the talismanic fly half never made it past the pool stage, having torn his groin in training prior to their match against Canada.
I just feel for this young fellow. He spent 10 years building up to this World Cup, probably. Maybe it wasn't in his vision 10 years ago, but certainly over the last few years. And it was a big stage for him, 29 at the peak of his powers, and that's been taken away. So that's very sad.
But fast forward to Twickenham in 2015, where the sadness was long forgotten, as Carter put on a rugby masterclass one final time. Playing his part in making his final All Black day at the office a memorable one, Carter kicked 4 penalties, 2 conversions, and a drop goal, earning Man of the Match honours.
It's actually much easier playing in a final than having to sit there and watch like I was 4 years ago. That was a pretty nerve-wracking final, and as a player you want to be there out on the field, and unfortunately I wasn't able to do that in 2011 through injury, and it's been a challenging last 4 years, but just so happy and pleased to be where I am, to be part of such a special group of guys, and to achieve what we have is something unique and something we should be really proud of.
There are a few other things Carter should be proud of, like adding the 2015 IRB Player of the Year award to the other 2 he won in 2005 and 2012. His impressive body of work includes 1,598 test points scored in 112 matches. The most not only for New Zealand, but any nation. And 9 Tri-Nations the Rugby Championship titles. And his impressive body has landed him underwear endorsements and a date with New Zealand hockey player Honor, who became his wife in 2011. However, she was less than impressed with his extensive superhero costume collection.
I had to pass them on to a close friend of mine, but yeah, you're right. It sounds a bit weird, but Artie Williams and I, we like to dress up and start a collection and pretty much have every superhero costume that there is. So, not too sure the reasoning behind that.
The opportunity for an elite athlete to leave their beloved sport on top is usually reserved for only the finest. And Dan Carter was arguably the finest fly-half the game of rugby has ever seen. Hence, his departure couldn't have been scripted better, and for a better bloke than himself.
He's enhanced the jersey, and when you start out as an All Black, that's one of the greatest things you could do. If you could sit back and say, well, actually, I've improved this jersey from how I picked it up, and yeah, in his position, that's a pretty remarkable thing to be able to do.
How does a nation of just over 4 million people become so dominant in just one sport? A lot of it has to do with the brains on the bench. And the All Blacks have had two of the game's greatest coaches. Graham Henry stepped down after beating France in the 2011 World Cup final, inspiring his players with his signature blend of tough love and tactics.
The French played particularly well for long periods of that game and controlled the ball. And to play in those situations and hang in there and come through with a win is something we wouldn't have done perhaps 2 or 3 years ago.
It was a fitting conclusion for the Christchurch native, who's considered by many to be the greatest rugby coach of all time. Between 2004 and 2011, Henry coached the side to 88 wins and 103 tests for a winning percentage of 85.4. During his time at the helm, he was named IRB International Coach of the Year 5 times. His assistant Steve Hansen took over the reins at the end of 2011 with some pretty big shoes to fill. But the former pro player turned police officer proved to be the perfect successor, having defended the 2011 World Cup title with arguably the greatest rugby team ever assembled. Still to come, the lighter side of the All Blacks. It's safe to say that when one thinks of New Zealand sport, the All Blacks come to mind. And perhaps they're the only team that comes to mind. But they're not the only national team borrowing the black label. The Black Caps have represented New Zealand in men's cricket since 1930. But their claim to fame came at the 2015 ICC World Cup, where they made the final for the first time ever. The Black Ferns are what one would call the women's rugby team. And when referring to both the men's and women's field hockey teams, one also has the option of calling them the Black Sticks. But although the rugby boys are the best of the bunch, rugby isn't the only thing they're good at. They wear hats with tassels really well. They publicly profess love for their families really well.
Really looking forward to get home to family and friends and some home-cooked meals. Miss Mum's Samoan food, so can't wait.
They even know how to act really well.
Morning, boys.
Maybe scrap the acting. But this Men in Black-themed safety video produced for Air New Zealand proves that while the All Blacks are rugby immortals on the pitch, they're your regular, hard-working boys off it.
There's a lot of people have realised that, you know, we're not the big bag ogres that sometimes we're printed to be in the media. You know, we're actually just ordinary people who can play rugby reasonably well.
Following the 2015 World Cup win, many key components called time on their All Black careers, leaving many wondering if New Zealand should brace itself for a decline. If the nation simply saw rugby as a popular sport, that notion could be justified. But it doesn't. In New Zealand, rugby is a way of being, an extension of who they are, and everyone is committed to the cause.
The All Blacks, you know, for over 100 plus years have, more often than not gone out and performed well out in the field, and I think that's that's what you feel that responsibility straight away, and part of coming to the team you realise that, and no person's bigger than what the team is, and your job's to just enhance and add something to that legacy, and that just means you don't have to do anything any more special than what gets you there, but just doing it every week's the key. And that's one thing I've always been big on, is that it's not so much being a hero every week, it's just been doing your job the best you can to serve the team. And I think when you've got 15 men or 23 men that do that every week, that's how you enhance it.
Through difficulty to greatness, perhaps nobody does it better. And that is the truth.